just have one question after this weekend. Just one. What is happening? That's what I'm wanting to know. What is happening? Just like me and Cole Thompson said from SEC Unfiltered, shout out to Cole Thompson. He was a great guest picker for Week 13 this past Thursday. Man, I just wanted to I hope y'all paid attention to what happened in Week 13. I hope y'all did, because it was chaotic. At least at the end, it was chaotic. Now, guys, it's going to be a very, very interesting Week 14 coming up. But before that, we got to get into what's happening, what happened in Week 13 and what's going on in the coaching carousel. A lot of stuff happening there, and we also have the Frenzy playoff rankings for Week 14 heading into Showdown Saturday. Buckle up, lock in. You're not going to want to miss it, because wait for it, it's the Pigskin word. It's going to be a doozy. Welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris. And whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, or listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X on Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow up the pages there. You're going to get episode updates, news, and highlights from across college and NFL football. Trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's question, as well as all things today for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, we have all platforms. Just follow and like each episode there. Guys, we have the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, 6,000 listeners and counting. We're about to be at 6,100 listeners and counting. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday and Thursday to just sit back and watch and listen college football each and every week with me, man. It is so great to just engage with you guys, and not only that, just to know that y'all are listening. So I'm glad that we provided another outlet for you guys to just to sit back and listen to some college football talk. Not only that, we give our Lord and Savior Jesus all the praise, because without this and without him, we would not be doing Pigskin Frenzy. We would not be in college football media, so we can give him all the glory and all the praise for being in college football media. So we give him all the praise, and we love him. We're so thankful for him. And guys, it's the best decision you can ever make in your life. So if you want to just to know Jesus and come to know Jesus and have questions about Jesus, guys, X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy. We also have the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com, for more of the contact info to know about Jesus. It's the best decision you can ever make in your life. We give him all the glory and all the praise for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, we're ready to rock and roll some college football talk. Let's dive into Week 13. It's an interesting Week 13. I'm asking myself what happened, because there's a lot of chaos that happened, especially in the Atlantic Coastal Conference, especially in the ACC. We're going to talk about it. But before that, let's go to the games that I got right. I was 3-1 in my picks. We're rocking and rolling here at Pigskin Frenzy. Hopefully, we have a great Showdown Saturday. Showdown Saturday 3, to be exact, as we move forward into that, and Conference Frenzy 3 as well. Guys, super pumped about what's happening with Showdown Saturday and the future of Pigskin Frenzy. It is going to be bright. We're rocking and rolling, man. We are rocking and rolling. BYU at Cincinnati happened on Saturday. It did. It happened. It was a game. I picked BYU to win that game, and I was right. BYU got the win on Saturday. Final score, BYU 26, Cincinnati 14. I don't see BYU losing another game. I think Utah's out. If you're thinking, dude, why did you lead off with that? Go back and listen to the previous episodes when I say that Utah is probably still in the hunt. They just need BYU to lose a couple of these games. Well, I think that window's closed. I really do. I think that window's closed a little bit. I don't really see them losing Saturday either. So I think it's going to be a rematch and a showdown between Texas Tech and BYU in the Big 12 Championship come next weekend. Not this weekend, obviously, because it's Showdown Saturday, but next weekend with Conference Frenzy. I think it's going to be BYU and Texas taking a rematch. Let's talk about BYU, and I'll go back to that statement. So, BYU looked really tough Saturday, didn't they? They looked very tough on the road against Cincinnati. I said one of the keys in this game was time of possession, and they did that. They dominated in time of possession once again. Cincinnati has had trouble with time of possession this year and trying to win that battle. They have had, a really tough time. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So they had a real tough time just trying to stop or anybody really. You're trying to get offenses off the field, right? We're going to talk about that here in a little bit, but here's my thing, right? Here's my whole ordeal. BYU in this one. LJ Martin was, Bear Botmeyer was great, but LJ Martin was the key in this. Positive circle moment, man, honestly. Got the pen out if you don't hear it. Positive circle moment. LJ Martin, 32 carries, 222 yards, 6.9 yards per rush, and 2 touchdowns. Unbelievable. LJ Martin was pretty much the main vocal point of their offense this past Saturday night, and they rocked and they were rolling. They were doing really well and really sound running the football this past Saturday. Looked really good on the ground with LJ Martin. Bear Bachmeier looked good as well, but 15 for 25, 127 yards. Bachmeier also had a rushing touchdown, 46 yards, 13 carries. And then, Martin had 44 yards receiving with 3 receptions, 14.7 yards per reception. They looked really good on offense, but defensively, they look sound as well. I think those are the positive circle moments. They looked very tough, very physical, and very sound on the ground. If you want to look at their positive circle moments as well, 265 rushing yards. They had 265 rushing yards on the ground. 392 total yards of offense, 5.3 yards per play. They were 7 for 14 on third down. And not only that, they had 74 total plays. They only punted 4 times. They had 0 sacks. They protected Bear Bachmeier well. 3 penalties for 21 yards. They played clean football as well. Here's the best, right? Here's the vocal point of BYU. 38 minutes and 25 seconds in time of possession compared to Cincinnati's 21 minutes and 35 seconds. They dominated in time of possession. They had the ball longer than they did, and they ran the clock out and iced the game. That's all it really was. Ground control, ball control. BYU is really good at that, and they're really good at playing you up front, playing smash mouth football, and they get the win. BYU looked really good. I think the only really negative really was the passing. I think they could spread it out a little bit more. Sure. Overall, what they're doing is work, besides one game, and it was Texas Tech. But overall, throughout the whole year, what they're doing is working. Their defense looked really good. They got 2 turnovers, another positive circle moment for the Cougars. I think that with BYU, they look like a very sound football team. Are they going to be even better this go-round against UCF and potentially in a rematch with Texas Tech in the Big 12 Championship? Who knows? We don't know yet. But here's my honest thoughts, and I'm going to go back to what I started off the whole statement with. I think they're going to win on Saturday. I favor them against UCF. I really do. It is nothing against Utah. I just don't think Utah is going to be in the Big 12 title. I think their hopes are kind of done at this point because they lost to BYU and Texas Tech. They're on the outside looking in, and that's nothing, not a knock at Utah. Not a knock, I promise at all. I like me some Utah, man. I really do. I just don't see it happening for them. I don't. I think BYU's going to win. I think they're going to go on to the Big 12 Championship and play Texas Tech. I really do. Final score of this game was 26-14. BYU beat Cincinnati, and they're going on to UCF. They're going on to play some UCF, and we're going to rock and roll. We're going to rock and roll and get ready for a, hopefully, which could be a good showdown in the Big 12 Championship. I just think that Big 12 race is kind of sewn up. I think BYU and Texas Tech got it, but we're going to see what happens. Who knows? A shock could happen. Anything can happen in the sport of college football. Let's talk about Cincinnati really quick. Cincinnati, in this game, they had some positives, they had some negatives. Let's talk about the positives in the negatives and the positives in this. Brendan Sorsby, I still think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the sport. 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. He only had 38 yards on the ground. Running the ball, which was pretty surprising. They are usually really good at running the football. Not a factor in this game. BYU kind of shut that down a little bit. Cyrus Allen, 51 yards, 1 touchdown, 10.2 yards per reception. Pryor had 48 yards, 3 receptions, 16 yards per reception. They did throw the ball a lot, passing yards, 300 passing yards through the air compared to BYU's 127 passing yards. That's a positive circle moment for Cincinnati right there. They looked really good spreading the ball out and throwing the ball out in the air. 6.3 yards per play compared to their 5.3 yards per play. That's pretty good. They had a whole yard compared to BYU in yards per play, so that's very good for them as well. I think they only allowed 1 sack, so usually, which is pretty good because BYU's pretty good up front, they protected Brendan Sorsby pretty much the entire game. They only allowed 1 sack. They protected him a lot and helped him not get sacked. So that's pretty good for Cincinnati's offensive line. So I'm going to take those positives, and we can run with it. Here are the negatives. 4 for 13 on third down. Couldn't really do much on third down. You couldn't get them off the field because in the time of possession battle, y'all got eaten alive again. 21 minutes and 35 seconds compared to their 38 minutes and 25 seconds. And then 2 turnovers that were very costly, and BYU ends up winning the game. I think the time of possession battle has been a very big struggle, a huge struggle for Cincinnati this year, and it shows. Now, they're 7-4. I expect them to be 8-4 come this past Saturday. I think they can beat TCU. They got TCU 3:30 Eastern, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. I think they can do it. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be a battle with TCU in Dallas, Fort Worth. I think it's going to be a huge battle in Fort Worth, Texas, come Saturday. But they're going to have to limit those turnovers. They're going to have to stop with the costly turnovers. They're going to have to figure out a way to get TCU off the field and limit their possessions. I think time of possession is a very big problem for Cincinnati because they like to move quick, yes, but their defense is not holding the. They're getting the offense is staying on the field throughout the whole time. Just going to keep on going and going and going, and it's not working out for them. So that's the problem. Well, what's going on with Cincinnati right now? We'll see what happens. It's going to be a very interesting contest Saturday. 26-14 final score. BYU defeats Cincinnati. I thought BYU was going to win this game. I think BYU's in, like I said. Cincinnati going back to the drawing board. Let's see how they do against TCU as they end the regular season down in Fort Worth. Going to be a very interesting game in the Big 12. Very interesting game in the Big 12. Let's talk about another game that I got right. That was BYU and Cincinnati, by the way. Let's talk about another game that I got right. Oklahoma and Missouri. I said it was going to be like 27-24 type of game. Shame on me, right? For suggesting a score a little bit higher, right? It was a pretty much low scoring, but I got the outcome right. Final score was 17-6. Oklahoma beats Missouri. Do or die. Those words I'm using. Do or die. The mentality is still there with Oklahoma. They got one more game, and it's against LSU. They beat LSU. They're in, I believe. Will they last in the playoffs? It's a whole different conversation, and I'm not going to go into that just yet. Let's go one game at a time. Oklahoma defeated Missouri in this game. Bo Pribula played. How about that? Bo Pribula was back in this ball game. Had an excellent first part of the drive, and then it kind of just went a little bit downhill, and OU ended up winning the ball game. Let's talk about Oklahoma in this game. Positives and negatives, circle moments. Positives, 103 rushing yards compared to their 70 rushing yards, which is surprising because Mizzou is electrifying on the ground. 4.5 yards per play compared to their 4.2 yards per play. 6 for 16 on third down. They had only 2 sacks allowed. They played clean football. They didn't turn the ball over, and I think that's pretty good. That's really, really good for OU. I think physically, they dominated late physically on defense at the end of the game. I think those are positive circle moments, ladies and gentlemen. I think those are positive circle moments for Oklahoma. They look good up front. They did. They looked great up front. They played really tough, physical. And I think that's a big positive circle moment for Oklahoma. I think offensively, they can do a lot better. Throwing the ball and running the ball. I know 103 yards is pretty solid for them. 173 yards passing. I think Mateer and company can do a lot better on the offensive side of the ball. I think the play calling is what's getting to me right now with Oklahoma. I think they could dial it up. I think they really do. I think they need to dial it up more. I think in the playoff game, if they go to the playoffs, I think they dial it up more, because if not, I don't like their chances. I'm going to be real. I don't really like their chances. I think their defense is really good. Don't get me wrong. I think they have their defense one of, if not the best defense in the sport, especially in the SEC. I do think that their offense is a lot to be left to desired. And I at first it was starting off really hot in September, and then in October, then after the material injury happened, it's like everything just kind of fell apart, right? I really want to believe that OU's offense is going to get clicking at the right time, which is if they beat LSU and they go to the playoff, they click in the playoff. I just don't think that. I think it's too late. I think we're gonna. This is what we're gonna get from OU. I really do. I think this is going to be a very low scoring game on Saturday. Don't get me wrong, between LSU and Oklahoma. I think Saturday in Norman. I think if they win this game and go to the playoff, this is what we're going to get from Oklahoma. No changes. This is it. I think the defense is great, but how long are we going to rely on our defense to help us out and bail us out a little bit? That's all I'm asking. How long are we going to rely on that? It's going to be very interesting to see and watch. I think their defense is solid, dude. I really do. I just think there could be a time where they could get gassed out a little bit. And once they get gassed out, somebody's gonna find a way to move the ball well on them, and somebody's gonna find a way to exploit it. I think Ole Miss did a perfect job this year against them. I think Texas did a good job this year on them as well. I think there's going to be another team that finds a way to do that, and it could cost them the game. Because if their defense starts slipping a little bit, I know their special teams is good too. Don't get me wrong. Tate Sandell, kicker of the year. But if they figure out a way to, excuse me, if the team figures out a way to slow that defense down and like kind of get them off their heels a little bit and kind of tire them out a little bit, then OU most likely can lose this ball game. I think the positive is their defense. I think the negative right now is a little bit of their offense. They can play a lot better on the offense. But who knows? I just don't. I think this is what we're going to get. I really do in Oklahoma. They got LSU this week. We're going to see what happens between LSU and OU. I think if Oklahoma just goes into the red zone, they're in. I think they're going to win the game if they can just figure out a way to go to the red zone. I really do. Because they're 100% in the red zone in scoring. I mean, whether it's field goals, touchdowns, I think if they can just go to the red zone, OU's, they're automatic in the red zone, dude. They always score. They're number one in red zone efficiency on offense. They're in. All right, so they're in there like swimwear, as we all say back in the day. So OU won this game 17-6. They move on, still do or die. They're finding a way to win games. I admire that about Oklahoma. They're finding a way to win college football games, guys. So OU's got LSU on Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. We're going to figure it out what's going to happen with LSU on Saturday. Let's talk about Missouri really quick. I was a little bit let down by Missouri, and I'm just going to keep it frank. I really was. I was let down, and here's why I say that. Let's start it off good. Bo Pribula is back. He played, and it was a solid first part of the drive. I mean, they let him down the field, and then it ended up being it was a field goal, I believe, all that time just for a field goal, which was kind of, you know what I mean? Like, really? And then after that, it ended up being, okay, OU going just back and forth, just giving the ball back. And then all of a sudden, it ended up being just, they started dialing up some plays, and then they didn't work, and then they just kind of stopped. You know what I mean? What I mean by that is just stopped. I just think the coaching staff coached very conservative in this game. If you're trying to impress anybody in the job market, and I know the rumors are flying around, okay? I know them, all right, with Missouri, drink with all that. I know. I love me some drink, man. I really do. But this was not really a way to impress open jobs right now. To me, this is not really a way to impress open jobs. I'm just going to keep it a $1.50 on that. It's not really a good way to impress. Let's talk about this game, positive and negative circle moments. Positives were 301 total yards overall, and they had 231 passing yards compared to Oklahoma. Those are some positive circle moments, dude. That's really good. I think the surprising ones for me are to me, because I think those are some positives. I think the negatives really outweigh the positives. Those are some positives, though. But let's talk about the negatives. 4.2 yards per play, 70 rushing yards. That's surprising, because last week we had Ahmad Hardy go for 300 yards. They only had 70 rushing yards total, and Missouri is a really good rushing offense. But it does show you how good Oklahoma's rushing defense actually is. They passed the test on rushing defense, man. It's going to be very hard to run the football on Oklahoma's defense. Very hard. And they're proving that right now. So that's a positive for Oklahoma. That's a negative. That was a negative for Mizzou. 3 for 15 on third down. Negative. 4 sacks allowed. Negative. They had a little bit more penalties. I really wouldn't even discount the penalties, as I didn't really think it was the kicker here. They won in time of possession, 32 minutes and 48 seconds. But, dude, they had 2 costly turnovers in this game. 2 interceptions, and OU did not turn the ball over once. When you force turnovers over this Oklahoma defense, on this OU defense, your chances are you're probably going to lose the ball game. And I see that. I mean, 2 or more, you're probably going to lose. And they had 2 turnovers, and they lost. I just think that Mizzou, that those were the factors, yes. But I think Mizzou, coaching-wise, just got out-coached. And they just really they just had a play-calling-wise especially, were really conservative. I think they could have taken more shots. They could have dialed it up more. I think both coaches really played a little bit of a conservative game. I think that's probably their game plan. I think Mizzou's defense was a positive circle moment in this game. Corey Batoon's doing great as Mizzou's defensive coordinator. I've been high on Missouri, dude. Don't get me wrong. I'm just keeping it at $1.50 with you guys. I just think the coaching was a little bit especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think defensively, they did their best against Oklahoma's offense. They really did. I just think offensively, they could have dialed it up a little bit more as well. I think at the very end, and on maybe 1 or 2 plays, OU dialed it up a little bit more at the very end. Or maybe not really the very end, but middle of the game, they dialed it up a little bit more. And then Missouri didn't. So I think Oklahoma won the ball game straight up, and Missouri's going back to the drawing board. I mean, 17-6 was the final score of this ball game. Oklahoma's got LSU this week. Mizzou's got Arkansas. I expect Mizzou to win this ball game. I don't think they're going to lose this game. I think they're going to beat Arkansas Saturday. Oklahoma has LSU. I expect them to win and get into the college football playoff. That's just me. That's just how I view it. But we're going to figure it out all on Saturday. Oklahoma 17, Missouri 6 in this one. I got that one right. Oklahoma wins this ball game. Let's talk about 2 more games. One that I got right, one that I got wrong. We're going to move on to the coaching carousel talk and the Frenzy rankings, because we need to. We need to talk about these rankings. Slight adjustment. Not too much adjustment, but we're going to talk about that later. Oregon and USC. Let me tell you something. I picked Oregon, and I was bold in picking Oregon. I was not going to be surprised if USC won this game, though. But Oregon, I picked them to win the ball game at home. Final score of this game was Oregon 42, USC 27. Oregon 42, USC 27. Oregon's 10-1. USC is 8-3. I am going to keep on saying it about USC. They're right where they need to be in terms of wins. At least Lincoln Riley is in terms of winning. He's right where he needs to be. I will get back to that when we talk about USC. Well, let's talk about Oregon in this game. Explosive. They were. Don't get me wrong. They were explosive in this game. Running the football, they looked really, really good. Dante Moore, Noah Whittington, they both look good as well. Noah Whittington, 104 yards, 19 carries, 1 touchdown. He had himself a day against USC's defense. Dante Moore was 22 for 30, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also moved around a little bit good as well. He made some electrifying throws. Davidson, 13 carries, 50 yards, and a touchdown. Let's talk about a couple of guys, and I'm going to talk about at the receiving end. Malik Benson, a huge return for a ground punt touchdown, really. I mean, he hit the ground, he got the ball, then took off, touchdown. Malik Benson, 67 yards, 4 receptions as well. He had himself a field day today for Oregon. And then Kenyon Sadiq. Let me go and tell you something about Kenyon Sadiq, dude. This man's a tight end and moves around like he's almost like a small receiver or running back. He is but the thing is, he's big too. But he moves around like he's like a small receiver or a back or a running back. He's a beast, dude. Kenyon Sadiq is an absolute animal, man. He had 2 touchdowns, 72 yards, 6 receptions. He had 12 yards per reception. He was moving around, and USC's defense really didn't have an answer for Kenyon Sadiq. And I think Kenyon Sadiq for defenses is a problem. So if you're playing Oregon, you're going to have to figure out a way to neutralize and contain him. Because if you don't, he's going to be a problem. And he's been a problem all season long. So Kenyon Sadiq, an animal. He played really good in this game. Positive circle moment players for the Ducks on this one. They ran the ball well. They were playing very physical football up front. I think they out-physicaled USC in this game a little bit, and they got the win. 436 total yards compared to their 382 total yards. 179 rushing yards compared to their 52 rushing yards. They had 6.1 yards per play compared to their 5.3 yards per play. All positive circle moments. 7 for 12. Positive circle moment there as well. And then 33 minutes compared to their 26 minutes in time of possession. That's all great. They also allowed 0 sacks, so that's a huge plus there also. Positive circle moments. But let me tell you something that could probably be game costly against a different team, and I think these are negative circle moments. 11 penalties for 130 yards. That was rough for Oregon, and I think that's a huge thing that they need to get cleaned up, especially when they play Washington on Saturday. And if they do beat Washington when they play in the college football playoff, most likely the first round, maybe a home game for them. They'll host a game. I think they need to clean that up and get ready for that. If you don't clean that up, that could be a playoff costing game right there. That could be a game killer for you. You lose games like that, but here's the deal. USC, a little bit under, but they had a lot of penalty yards as well. And they also had a couple of turnovers as well. So lucky for them, Oregon, right? Lucky for Oregon, USC had that. It was a game to me where it's like, okay, who's going to make the most mistakes? And Oregon made the lesser of the mistakes, and they found a way to win the game. That's all that matters. They found a way to win the game. I'm sure that Dan Lanning's going to get those penalties and all that cleaned up. I am sure he is not happy with the penalty and the discipline, the penalties and just the performance discipline-wise for this team. I think he will get it cleaned up. Everything's going to be fine. And they're going to rock and roll. 11 penalties for 130 yards. Oregon looks like they're in, but let's just hold on because they have Washington on the road in Seattle, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. I vividly remember when they played Washington in Seattle. I know what happened. Dan Lanning was the coach of that team as well in Oregon. Different circumstances this go round, though. I think Oregon can win. We're going to figure it out and see what happens. But if Oregon wins this game, they're most likely in, and they'll probably host a playoff game. But we'll see what happens. They're third in the Big Ten. Oregon's rocking and rolling. They're 10-1. Could finish their season 11-1. Dan Lanning's got the Ducks rolling. Just got to clean it up discipline-wise, man, because that could hurt you. It could very well hurt you. Final score was 42-27. Oregon gets the win. Let's talk about USC really quick, and then we'll move on to the game that I got wrong and talk about the chaos that's happening in the ACC right now. USC, and they're right where they need to be. And when I said that they're right where they need to be for Lincoln Riley, he needed to win at least 8 to 9 games to get a lot of the talk off of him. And now we're not hearing as much talk on him. Unless it's for, another job, but it's low-key. I don't think he's leaving USC. He's definitely not leaving USC. I don't think so. I get why the talk's on him for leaving, but I don't think he's leaving. But the hot seat talk is kind of died down for Lincoln Riley. And it should have never, I really wouldn't have. I really would have talked more on the hot seat chatter if they would have had a bad season this year. But early on, I was like, not really. For me, not really. Lincoln Riley is where he needed to be. What I said, at least. I said he needed to win 8 to 9 games. I said that during July, I believe. July is when I said that, before the season started back in summer. And now we are here at that point. He got what he needed. at least for me in this season. Are they going to make the playoffs? Most likely not. But I will say that 9-3 or 8-3, most likely 9-3, because I think they can beat you. I think they'll beat UCLA Saturday. I think that's a huge improvement, and that's progress. So we're going to see what happens. 330 passing yards, positive circle moment. I think that the player-wise for Oregon or for USC, Jaden Maiava, 306 yards, 3 touchdowns, 25 for 43. Mekhi Lemon had a passing touchdown for 24 yards, which was crazy. I think Hines, receiver for USC, 141 yards, 6 receptions, and a touchdown. Jacoby Lane, 108 yards, 6 receptions. Mekhi Lemon had 2 touchdowns, 34 yards, 7 receptions. McRee had 1 touchdown, 31 yards, and 3 receptions. The passing was all over the place. And Oregon was having a little bit of a tough time trying to keep up with their passing offense, I believe. And they look good passing the ball, 330 yards passing, and that was pretty much a huge positive circle moment for them there. I think this is, and then another positive is 1 sack allowed. They only allowed 1 sack in this ball game, which is pretty good. That is good for USC. I think if you want to look at the negatives, though, because they kind of outweigh the positives in this. I mean, 52 yards rushing. They couldn't really run the ball. Let me just go one more positive. Just one more. 7 for 15. That's not too terrible. So I think they did okay on third down as well. That's a positive for me as well. But overall, 52 rushing yards on the ground. They had 2 turnovers and 8 penalties for 103 yards. I think the key to this game was they made some mistakes. Here is one of the reasons why I think another example, right, of some of the mistakes they made. Back to be halftime. They're on the goal line. They called a couple of plays that were questionable. I think they were draw plays, if I'm not mistaken. And then they go to 4th and goal. They kick a field goal, and then they doink it. The play calling was questionable at the goal line from the beginning. We're wondering, okay, why'd you call those plays? Kick a field goal, and you missed. And then you go in a half, Oregon gets the ball back. And then you have 2 turnovers, and then you have penalties to the 9s, 8 penalties for 103 yards. It's just costly. That stuff's costly, and it costs you games. And I think those were the huge issues for USC on Saturday. And I think that's why it cost them the game. I think the mistakes that they had were more than what Oregon had, and USC lost the game because of it. And I think that's really it. Who made the most mistakes? USC, and that's why they lost. Because Oregon was making some mistakes too, don't get me wrong. But I think that USC was making the more mistakes. And I think that's what was happening in this overall. So, final score of this game was 42-27. Oregon's got to play Washington on Saturday. USC has got to play UCLA on Saturday. So we're going to see what happens. 42-27. Oregon is looking like they're a playoff team. USC is on the outside looking in once again this year, but huge improvement. I mean, I think a 9-win season is a huge improvement. It could be a 10-win season for USC. So that's huge improvement for USC and Lincoln Riley in year 4. So 42-27, Oregon wins. Those are the games I got right. Let's talk about the game that I got wrong, and then we'll move on to the coaching talk, and we'll move on to that, and we'll get everything rocking and rolling then. So let's talk about the game that I got wrong. Pitt and Georgia Tech, right? Pitt and Georgia Tech. Yay, Joel. I picked Georgia Tech to win this game. Georgia Tech was a 2.5-point favorites. Pitt was up 28-0 in the second quarter. 28-0 in the second quarter. And then GT started to fire away and make it 28-14 in the second quarter. They go into half, and then as they're going down the field, Georgia Tech's going down the field, they're about to score a pick six, a 100-yard pick six for Pitt, and it's 35-14. And then it's 35-21. Then it's 35-28. Georgia Tech's back in it. And then Pitt puts a dagger in their hearts and goes and breaks off with a huge run for a touchdown. And then after the huge run for a touchdown, it's Pitt 42, Georgia Tech 28, and then time expires and Pitt wins. Final score was Pitt 42, Georgia Tech 28. Winners first on this show. Let's go back a week. Let's rewind. I'm doing the VCR noise. That was a horrible VCR noise, by the way, what I just did. I'm not going to do that again. Pat Narduzzi standing up. Not yesterday, but last Monday before the Notre Dame game. Or 2 weeks ago before the Notre Dame game. He's going, they can drop 100 on us. As long as we win the next 2 games, we're fine. Well, then, was he right in the long term? Because I'm going to tell you what, the mentality was a lot different this game than it was last game. It seemed like they didn't really care about the Notre Dame game. They cared about Georgia Tech because they beat them. And when I mean beat them, they beat them. Physically beat them. Up front, they were stronger on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They ran the ball well. Georgia Tech's defense really was having trouble against Pitt. All through the air and a little bit on the ground as well. Positive circle moments. How about Mason Heinschel? 226 yards, 20 for 27, and 2 touchdowns. Let's talk about Turner, Jakarian Turner, because Desmond Reed was out Saturday. But no problem, right? No problem. 21 carries, 201 yards, 1 touchdown, 9.6 yards per rush. That's 2nd and 1, and then another first down. Goff had 21 yards, 5 carries, 1 touchdown, and Mason Heinschel had a rushing touchdown as well, so he had 3 total touchdowns on the ground as well. Johnson had 91 yards, 1 touchdown, 15.2 yards per reception, and then you had Holmes had 19-yard touchdown reception as well. Through the air and passing, Georgia Tech had more passing yards, sure. Rushing, Pitt had more rushing yards. 412 yards total of offense for Pitt. Positive circle moment there. 186 yards rushing. Positive circle moment for Pitt there. 6.1 yards per play. Positive circle moment for Pitt there as well. 5 for 13 on 3rd down. Efficient on 3rd down. Efficient enough on 3rd down. Positive there for them. And then they played clean ball. No turnovers. And that is what was going to do it for Pitt. So those are the positives for Pitt in this game. Mentality was off the charts. They were really ready to play this game. I think the negatives for them was the 8 penalties, 80 yards. They got to clean that up. And I think in certain aspects, decision-making is a problem. I think, especially coaching-wise, I think Narduzzi calling that fake punt was kind of weird. I think that was different. But if you want to talk about that, I mean, it doesn't affect the outcome of the game, obviously, no. But I think, to me, I think that touchdown was real. That fake punt or whatever was different. I was looking at something on my notes. I think that was different. That Narduzzi fake punt. I didn't think that he should have done that there. And it gave Georgia Tech a touchdown. And it could have led to a comeback if they wouldn't have, if they would have done what they did, right? So, overall, it didn't affect the outcome. Pitt won the game. But I think they need to clean some of that stuff up. If they go to the ACC Championship, which we're going to talk about that here in a little bit because it's chaos, if they somehow do find themselves in the conference title game, they cannot make a coaching mistake like that. Because I think the other team, Virginia or whoever they play, can capitalize on that. Pitt's got Miami Saturday. So that's going to be very interesting. And Miami is still in the thick of things. Miami's got to get a lot of help. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Miami on Saturday. Miami at Pitt, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central kick. Going to be a very interesting ball game. Miami at Pitt. If Pitt loses, they're done. Miami's going to get a lot of help as well. So we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But Pitt beats Georgia Tech 42-28 in this game. Mentally, they were prepared, man. Narduzzi said it best. As long as we win the next 2, we're going to be fine. And guess what? They won one of them. Let's see if they can beat Miami on Saturday. Georgia Tech. That was their last ACC game. So now they need help. They need, number 1, Jesus, and number 2, they need help from others to get to Charlotte. If they would have won this game, they were in. I mean, I picked them to go to the ACC Championship during the offseason. They were so close to making a Pigskin Frenzy prediction right. And at the very last possible game, when I pick them to win, they lose this one. I hurt for the players, and I'm sorry for the players and Brent Key, and I'm sorry for all of them. But I'm gonna tell you what, they let me down as well. The Pigskin prediction has been let down and busted at the very last possible second. Georgia Tech, man. Let's talk about them, positive and negative circle moments. Positives, Haynes King, 27 for 41, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 1 rushing touchdown, 76 yards, 12 carries. He did all that he could. Jamal Haynes, 39 yards, 1 touchdown, 10 carries, 39 yards, 1 touchdown. Canyon had 2 touchdowns, 67 yards. Malik Rutherford had 68 yards, 6 receptions. Positive circle moments overall. 257 passing yards. They only they had 257 passing yards. They only allowed 1 sack. I think those are the positives there. I think overall they had some fight in certain areas, and they came back. And I think the mentality didn't go away, which are some positive circle moments for Georgia Tech. The negatives kind of outweigh the positives, though. Their defense was not all that great in this game, and they could not stop Pitt. Majority of the drives, they could not stop Pitt. 9 penalties for 71 yards, 2 interceptions, and they only had 121 yards. They were 3 for 14 on third down. 121 yards rushing, 3 for 14 on third down, 5.1 yards per play. I just think defensively as well, they really, like I said, they just couldn't stop them on a lot of drives. They stopped them on some, but they really couldn't stop them overall. And that's a huge problem. Now they're on the outside looking in, and they need a lot of help. They had Georgia this week in clean old-fashioned hate. Spoiler alert, that's a Pigskin Frenzy game for this week, for Showdown Saturday. It's actually on Friday, but they have it on Friday. Friday, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central in Atlanta, Georgia, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Why are they doing that game there? I don't know. Nothing ever comes good right now in the sport, right? But, okay. Georgia Tech got Georgia Saturday. That was their Friday. That was their last game. That was their last game in the ACC-wise. Now they got Black Friday game against Georgia. We're going to see how that goes. Final score of this game was 42-28. Pitt is still in it. Georgia Tech is slightly still in it. They need a lot of help. So 42-28 was the final score of this game. Pitt defeats Georgia Tech in a shocking upset. The only game that I got wrong on Saturday. Not the best recap of the game, but we're going to talk about the scenarios behind it now. So it kind of goes into what we're talking about. So that was the Week 13 recap. Let's talk about the ACC tiebreaker scenarios a little bit, and then we'll talk about the coaching saga, Lane Kiffin stuff, and interesting conversation on Florida State. We're going to talk about that as well, and the Frenzy rankings as well. So let's get into the ACC stuff really quick, slightly. So if you want to look at the scenarios, Virginia is the number 1 team statistically right now in the ACC. They play Vatech Saturday. SMU this week. I'm trying to think who SMU this week. Let me look at their scheduling. Pull up their schedule really quick. Play Cal this Saturday night. So if they beat Cal and Virginia wins, we're getting a SMU and Virginia ACC championship game. The winner of those the winner of that game goes to the playoff, right? I think they'll get in. A lot of people are going to say, we're going to see a world without the ACC in the playoff. I think they're in. To me, but I just don't see how you can leave an ACC champion out, but that's just me. But what happens if SMU loses to Cal and Virginia loses? Well, scenarios are this. SMU needs to win. Virginia needs to win. I'm about to make your head explode. They're in. But what happens if one of them loses? So if Virginia loses, they're going to need Pitt and SMU to lose to create the mess of 2 lost teams for Virginia to get in. But they will clinch a spot if they beat Vatech. SMU, if they lose, if they lose, it would really, or if they win, it would give the edge, right? They would give the edge. If they win, they would give the edge to them because they beat the Panthers, right? And they lost to Louisville. So Pitt needs a win against Miami and a loss by either Virginia or SMU to clinch a spot. So Pitt's third. So if SMU, so they're rooting for Virginia to lose or SMU to lose. They need one of those teams to lose and they're in. But what happens with Miami? So if Miami, same thing. Because Miami's still in the thick of it. If Miami beats Pitt, then Miami needs either Virginia or SMU to lose. What about Georgia Tech? Well, Georgia Tech needs a loss. Georgia Tech needs 3 losses to happen. SMU, Virginia, and Miami needs to beat Pitt. So they need Pitt to lose, they need Virginia to lose, and they need SMU to lose. If all 3 lose, Georgia Tech's right back in it. We'll see. What about this one? Well, this is an interesting one because they're still in the race, sort of, this weekend. Duke. Surprisingly, a 6-5 Duke team still in it because they're 5-2 conference play-wise. Let's talk about Duke. They went into a series of upsets. They need the win against Wake Forest. They need Miami to beat Pitt. Virginia Tech beating Virginia and Cal beating SMU. And then they need North Carolina beat NC State. And then they're in. Crazy. All crazy. Chaos in the ACC. What's going to happen to me? I think Virginia's going to win. I think SMU's going to win. That's going to be that. I think SMU and Virginia are going to go to the ACC Championship. That's just me. I know it's kind of, hey, you just said all that stuff to make my head explode, and then you're just going to sit there and say, oh, they're in. I think SMU and Virginia are going to win. I think they're in. I think SMU's better than Cal. And I think that, Virginia is going to win Saturday as well. So we'll see what happens. ACC, mind-blowing, a lot of chaos. We'll see what happens, but those are the scenarios. We're going to see what happens here come Saturday. That was the Week 13 recap. Very interesting. We're going to move on to Showdown Saturday because this is going to be a doozy this week. Guys, before we get into that, let's talk about some coaching carousel talk, and let's talk about some stuff going on with the latest of the coaching carousel. Cal fired Justin Wilcox the other day. Justin Wilcox, head coach under a good bit being there. Justin Wilcox was let go of his duties as head coach of the Cal Golden Bears. Who's a fit? Well, they're looking at Will Stein from Oregon. That could be a good fit as well. I think that it's going to be a very interesting job scenario there. Whoever's going to take it. ACC job just open up. I think that Justin Wilcox will make an excellent defensive coordinator. I really do. So I think whoever is in the market for a DC, I would look at Justin Wilcox for sure. I think who Cal gets as their head coach is a complete mystery. Who knows? But I think Will Stein can be up for the job as well because he was doing a fantastic job as Oregon's offensive coordinator. I think if you want a coordinator that's another coordinator, proven and ready to go for a head coaching job, then Will Stein could be your best bet for Cal. So let's see what's going to happen. It's going to be an interesting, scenario what's going on with Cal, but they let Justin Wilcox go. We're going to see what happens, and we'll see where Cal goes with their head coaching search. But Cal has let go Justin Wilcox. Thoughts and prayers with Justin Wilcox. I think he's going to find a DC job somewhere. I really do. I think he's a solid defensive coach, and I think he can pick up a defensive coordinator job somewhere. I really do. So I don't think he's going to have he's not going to be unemployed long. Let me just put it that way. Let's talk about this one because this is a doozy and it's a mind-blowing thing. Florida State, a lot of talk going on with Mike Norvell and the history there. I posted a couple of tweets November 8th, and then I posted one this past Friday. I said that I like Mike Norvell. He's a great guy. Wonderful dude. I like him a lot. I I just think there's a way that they need to move on and go a different direction, head coach wise. I just don't think it's working out. Lo and behold, Sunday, Florida State announces they're keeping Mike Norvell. They are keeping Mike Norvell, retaining him as their head coach for 2026 and potentially beyond. Who knows? But 2026, Mike Norvell will be the head coach at Florida State. A lot of people are saying, Joel, why is this happening? Florida State is 5-6, fighting for bowl eligibility against Florida on Saturday. Well, I will say there's one big factor into this, and that's the buyout. The buyout is ridiculous. If you want to look at how much the buyout is, it is up to near $60 million. I think the buyout, this is just lo and behold, I'm not saying anything. I don't think Florida State's, what's wrong with their finances? I don't think anything's wrong with their finances. I just think I don't think they're willing to pay $60 million for that. I think that's what it is. I think if the buyout goes lower, then obviously maybe. I just don't think that the buyout money, and this is what the bottom line is, that's a lot of money to pay to fire a head coach. A lot of people are going to say, well, Brian Kelly, $54 million of, James Franklin, $50 million. I understand. A lot of money for both of those programs as well. I just don't think. I think Florida State that's a little bit more than what LSU and Penn State are doing right now. Just a tiny bit more. $60 million's a lot, dude, a lot, and I don't think Florida State wants to jump the gun. There's a lot of teams who are willing to pull the trigger. Florida State's not one of them. I think they're going to wait. And the coaching pool next year, who knows, could be good, if not better than this year. So we're going to see what happens. But they're going to keep him. We're going to see what happens in that round. But I think this all has to do with buyout. I really do. To me, and this is nothing against Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell said the other day, we're close, and I promise you that we're going to be a lot more better and motivated this year. Or coming out of this year, going into next year, which is 2026. It is hard for me to believe that. They only had one good year under him, and that was in 2023. Other than that, the years have been kind of filled with a lot of hope, but not delivering on the hope, on the promise of being a solid football team each and every year. That's my thoughts on that. Take it as you will. I just can't really buy stock into 2026 for Florida State this year. Or coming up now next year. I thought it was going to be a lot better this year, and it was. Win-wise, it was. They got 3 more wins than they did last year, but they're still not where they should be. After all the turnover and changes and, they got some more talent for this year, they're still not where they needed to be. And they lost games they really shouldn't have had. They really have no business of losing. So, to me, I think that if the buyout's lower next year and nothing comes up with, okay, we're going to go make a great 2026 and it's the same thing we saw this year or worse, and the buyout's lower, then they're probably going to move on. But I think the buyout has something to do with it, and I think that's the big reason why. They just don't want to pull the trigger right now. Florida State's keeping Mike Norvell. We'll see what happens in 2026. I just don't know if I can buy stock into it right now. Let's talk about 3 coaching search latest, and then we'll talk about Lane Kiffin before we do the Frenzy rankings for Week 14, because we got to get a hold on that as well, and the Lane Kiffin stuff. So let's go with Auburn first. I think they're pretty confident on who they're going to get. I think we're right there. I think, and this is just my thoughts, nobody else is saying this. This is coming from Joel Norris, and this is just opinion. This is my thoughts. I think Summerall is probably the guy that they are going to go after. I think DJ Durkin's in there. If Summerall doesn't get, if they go a different direction, or if Summerall takes another job, or stays at Tulane in the event of a chance that he stays at Tulane, I think Summerall's the guy. I really do. I think Summerall's the guy. I think he would win at Auburn as well. I really do. That's just really my overall thoughts on that. That's Auburn for me. I know that was a quick overall gist of where it's going. I just think it's trending towards John Summerall. I really do. For Arkansas, there's a lot of factors you can go into it. I've heard a lot of names being thrown around for Arkansas. I think they're close, but we're going to see what happens. I think they're close, though. I don't know an exact name as of yet, but I've heard quite a few names for Arkansas being thrown around. Like Eric Morris being one of them from North Texas. I think that's a name you could go after if you're Arkansas and land. We're going to see how it goes, but I think they're pretty close to getting a hire as well. So we're going to see what happens with Arkansas in the coming days. It's going to be very interesting to see what route they go as well. And then finally, Penn State. There's the case for Terry Smith. I don't know if they're going to go that route. The tweet that I saw, and there was the rumors, and I said this in a tweet as well, was someone educate me why he would leave this place for Penn State, but Kalen DeBoer from Alabama. I just don't understand why he would leave Alabama for Penn State. A lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, it's the uncomfortable atmosphere of if he doesn't win on Saturday and he misses another playoff appearance and misses another SEC championship appearance in his second season. A lot of them are going to want him out because he's having the pressure put on him. Alabama was going to come with pressure after Nick Saban left. That is the job that he was going after and he left Washington for. He knows the pressure that's going to happen there. What do you expect? You're following up the greatest of all time. He made that job so prestigious. The resources there are to the nines because of Nick Saban. And what Nick Saban built there, that's going to be hard to follow up anywhere you go. So I think Kalen DeBoer, if Nick Saban was at any other school and did that, and anybody replaced him at any other school, it's going to be hard to follow up regardless. It is a hard thing to follow up, and I knew it was going to be hard for Kalen DeBoer to follow it up. He's just got to do things his own way. Now, fans being impatient and all that, I understand all that. But to me, job-wise, it's not a better job than Alabama. I think Penn State's a good job, don't get me wrong, but it's not a better job than Alabama. I don't think Kalen DeBoer is going there. I think win or lose, I would be very shocked if Penn State landed Kalen DeBoer. Very shocked. If the Alabama job came open, I would be very shocked. That's my honest thoughts. I would be 100% shocked. Now, the guy that I think what's going to end up happening is, I heard him talk about it with me on Pigskin Frenzy this past Thursday. Cole Thompson from SEC Unfiltered. Shout out to him. Here's where I think it's going. I am in agreement with Cole Thompson. It's looking like Bob Chesney from James Madison. I think that could be a very good option as well. I like Chesney. He's a winner everywhere he goes. He's winning big at James Madison. Kirk Cignetti won big at James Madison and now is winning really big at Indiana. He could be that guy for Penn State. And it could be, not really an upgrade, but on the same level of, playing field as James Franklin. He could get you to that threshold probably a little bit over James Franklin, maybe, if you're Bob Chesney, because he's a winner everywhere he goes. He's like John Summerall at Tulane and at Troy, what he did. He's like that in the group of five as well. So, Bob Chesney's a name for me as well. We're going to see what happens with Penn State's coaching searches, but those are the names that I'm thinking. Bob Chesney for Penn State for me. And if we're looking at Arkansas, maybe Eric Morris, maybe from North Texas. And then for Auburn, I still think Summerall is probably going to land the job. That's just me. And that's my coaching thoughts, my coaching carousel latest for those three jobs. Let's talk about Lane Kiffin Saga really quick, and then we will move on to the Frenzy rankings and wrap up Pigskin Frenzy for today. Guys, it is hectic going into this week as Keith Carter released the statement on Friday. Decision is supposed to be made by Saturday. He is coaching the Egg Bowl on Friday morning, Black Friday. Okay, it's pretty tense in Oxford right now. It doesn't take, and this is kind of in a very nice way of putting it, it's not going to take a scientist or a rocket scientist to figure that one out. It is very tense. I saw the vibe from the press conference and his body language. He looked very tense. I felt tension with him. When I watched the press conference, it was very tensiony. They kept asking him about his future and all that. Here's the thing. I applaud media members for asking him that. Here's the deal. He's not going to answer it. All right? So to me, it's like just ask him about the Egg Bowl and ask him about Mississippi State on Friday, because he's not going to answer questions about LSU or Florida or Ole Miss. He's not. He's not. Here's my settlement on it as well. So that's that side of it. I feel for the players, and I've been thinking about this for the past few days. I really feel for the players hearing all this, because they are trying to go to the playoff. They are trying to compete for the Egg Bowl and win and beat Mississippi State in a rivalry game, kicking off a showdown Saturday weekend. I just feel like they are trying to win and trying to go out there and compete for the playoff, knowing – had a little bit of scratch there, knowing that the future of coaching is uncertain for them. I feel for those players because they're hearing all that. They don't want to hear all that. That's distracting for them. It's all distracting for them because the focus should be about, look, these players, right? The players going to the playoff, could potentially hosting a playoff game in Oxford. I know Lane Kiffin wants to coach them in the playoff. Do I think he's leaving? It's trending towards that. I think that he wants to still coach them in the playoff and potentially try to win a national title before he leaves, maybe. And I think that's what the focus is going to be on, but they're not going to let him coach the playoff, obviously. So it's really just a sucky situation for Ole Miss and the players and the fan base. It's really in my heart, in my thoughts and prayers, my heart goes out to every single one of them because I feel bad for them. I really do. I really feel bad for the program. I honestly do. But here's the deal. I'm not going to sit here and say, Lane Kiffin, he's the heel. Yeah, I get the heel stuff. You either die a hero you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Two things. One, if you haven't seen The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, Batman movie, number one, are you living under a rock, and where have you been? Number two, go and watch that movie. It's fantastic. And this is a scenario right now where Lane Kiffin's under. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. He may be becoming the villain. Who knows? All that storyline talk, sure, whatever. Here's the deal. Summerall could be leaving for another job, and Tulane could go to the playoff. Eric Morris could be going to the playoff at North Texas. Bob Chesney could be the Group of 5 representative. He could be going to the playoff as well and could leave his team to go to take the Penn State or whatever job that he's offered. Lane Kiffin's not the only one. The reason why it's the way that it is because of the spectacle it has become between the three programs, Florida, LSU, and Ole Miss, and the drama behind it, and the teasing and the hooting and hollering about it. The other ones are just quiet about it. This is just out in the open. And that's why it's such a big spectacle about what's happening. So that's all that. Here's the thing that concerns me about this whole situation. You find it a little bit concerning that Ole Miss is being quiet about it all? You find it a little bit concerning? I'm not saying he's staying, but he could. Who knows? I'm not saying that he is or not or whatever. I'm just saying they're the only ones being quiet about this whole thing. That's something to think about, man. That is something to think about. Ole Miss is really the true ones that are being silent. Because a lot of people that are saying, oh, Florida, we've been silent the whole time. Yeah, we're not hearing a lot about Florida besides like two things. One, the $13 million offer for $25 million, according to On3. And then we're hearing about the meeting that happened last Thursday between the representation of Lane Kiffin and Florida. Yeah, we've heard about those two things. And then we're hearing more on the LSU side, obviously. Other than that, Ole Miss has been the true quiet ones this whole time. So we'll see what happens. We're going to see what happens. But this Lane Kiffin stuff is going to reach its conclusion, most likely by this week. So we're going to see what happens, man. But I just don't really – I feel bad for the players. That's the note I'm going to go by. I feel bad for the players. But I also want the fans on X and the people on X to stop saying, we got him. It's a done deal. Because you don't know, man. You really don't know. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. A lot of the high-level reporters don't know. We won't know until Saturday, most likely. So let's just stop. Saturday or Sunday. So let's just stop. All right? Let's just calm down and stop. That's the update on the Lane Kiffin situation. We'll see what happens. I'm going to ask our guest picker for Week 14 to talk about it as well, because I would love to hear his thoughts as well. We're going to discuss it on Thursday's episode, a Thanksgiving episode of Pigskin Frenzy. It's going to be a doozy on Thursday. So that's the Lane Kiffin situation and the saga going on there. Last but not least, let's move on, and we'll do the Frenzy playoff rankings for Week 14 before we head into Thursday. Week 14 of the Frenzy rankings, going to be awesome. Cannot wait to do this and talk about the Frenzy playoff rankings for Week 14/Showdown Saturday. Let's get it going. Before the rankings come out tonight, I want to see if they get it right on my standards at least. The honorable mentions for the Week 14 rankings. I didn't do the honorable mentions last week, and shame on me, Joel, for not doing that. Let's talk about the honorable mentions for this week. For me, I think Navy is in there. I dropped Navy out of the rankings for this week, and you're thinking they had a bye, man. I know, but there are some teams out there that I had to readjust, and I think Navy is good, but there's some teams that it caused a lot of bit of adjustment, 25 through 12, all right? Caused a little bit of adjustment, and a little bit in the top 10, but not too much. Honorable mention, Arizona State, Navy, Arizona, and Iowa. Those are my honorable mentions for Frenzy playoff rankings, man, for this past week and for Week 14. Okay, number 25 in the Frenzy playoff rankings for Week 14, Georgia Tech is number 25, going all the way from 15 to 25 in my rankings. They have a lot to do before they get back in it. A lot to do. And I think that's the real big issue here and the big kicker here. They need help, okay, to get into the ACC Championship. They got Georgia this weekend. They're 9-2, good team. You're going to be upset on why I have these other teams ranked ahead of them. But 9-2 is just, yeah, I think that's the best right for me. They're still ranked, but 25 for me is Georgia Tech. I just think that loss kind of hurt them a little bit this past Saturday. Number 24, Texas. Good win against Arkansas. They got Texas A&M on Showdown Saturday on Black Friday. Coming up this weekend, we're going to see what happens against them at home against the Aggies. Very big game on Friday night. Number 24 in my rankings, Texas. A lot of people have them at 17 through 15. I do not have them there. But number 24 is Texas. Number 23 is Tennessee. Big win against Florida. And congratulations. 22 years in the making for Tennessee with that one. So, very big one right there. Very big thing for them in Gainesville on Saturday night. So, huge for them. So, big thing in the making there. So, 23 is Tennessee. Number 22 is USC. Huge loss against Oregon, I know, but I didn't drop them completely out of the rankings as I think USC belongs in there. 8-3, not a bad football team. I think number 22 is USC. I wasn't going to drop them that far. They did make some mistakes, but I'm not going to drop them all that far. So, number 22 is USC. Number 21 is SMU. They have a lot to play for. A lot to play for Saturday, especially an ACC Championship bid. That's why I put them in there. Let's see what happens. They've had a good season. We're going to see what happens if they make it to the ACC Championship and beat Virginia. They're in the playoff, to me. So we're going to see what happens with SMU at 21. Number 20 is Pitt, because they are fighting for a playoff spot as well. They got to beat Miami. They got to have SMU or Virginia lose. Pitt beat Georgia Tech, and they deserve to be in there. Huge win for them. Number 20 is Pitt. Number 19 is Tulane. Tulane is number 19 in our rankings. They are the second seed to me in the American Conference Championship. We're going to see what happens if they win out, and if they go to the American Conference Championship, if they beat North Texas, I think they could be the group of 5 representation in the playoff. We will see what happens there. Number 19 is Tulane. Number 18 is James Madison. They should win the Sun Belt, and they have a high chance at going to the playoffs as a Group of 5 representation. There's only one spot for them, though, so we're going to see what happens there. I think a 1-loss goes over a 2-loss Tulane. I really do. But we'll see what happens. North Texas is number 17. They're the number 1 team in the American Conference right now. If they beat Tulane, I think they go in over James Madison. If James Madison wins out, I think North Texas goes into the playoff, and they are the Group of 5 representation in there as well. Number 16 is Miami, because Miami still has a lot to play for as well. They got to beat Pitt, and they need somebody else to lose as well. So let's see what happens. But Miami is in if they in the ACC Championship if Pitt loses, and if somebody else loses as well. Miami, number 16. Number 15 is Michigan. I think if Michigan wins Saturday in an upset against Ohio State, and I think they're going to have the best win on any resume, and they're going to be in. They're going to be in that large spot, I believe. I really do. If Michigan wins Saturday. Michigan is 15 on the outside looking in. 14 is Virginia. They're the highest ranked ACC team on our list. I think that they are going to go to the ACC Championship. I think they have a shot at going to the playoff and being an ACC champion and going to the playoff. So let's see what happens with Virginia. Number 14 is Virginia on our list. Number 13 is Utah. Even though I think Utah is probably out of it, Big 12-wise, they may can sneak into an at-large. Who knows? But Utah is 13 on our list, and Vanderbilt is 12. I think Vanderbilt's impressing. So the way I see it right now, if you want to look at an at-large spot, Vanderbilt could be in. They just got to beat Tennessee and Neyland on Saturday. So we'll see what happens. But Vanderbilt is number 12. They continue to impress me. They're rocking and rolling, man. Vanderbilt is number 12 on our list. Not a lot of adjustment, 11 through 1, just only a small change. Number 11 is Alabama. Alabama is number 11. I really don't need to move them from Eastern Illinois after that win. I really don't. We'll see what happens against Auburn on Saturday night. I don't think I have to move them for that. 11 is Alabama. Number 10 is Oklahoma. Oklahoma is number 10. Good win against Mizzou. I just don't see any reason right now for me to move them at this point in time. That's just because of me. Number 9 is BYU. You're going to think, are you serious? That's the move? This is the move. Number 9 is BYU. BYU played good against Cincinnati. I think Notre Dame beating Syracuse 70-7 was quite impressive. Even though Syracuse has not had a good year, it's quite impressive what they did against Syracuse. 70-7. Notre Dame's 8 on our list. Number 7 is Oregon. They did beat USC. Not a big difference to me. I think the penalties is what kind of set them back a little bit. Ole Miss is on bye, so I put Ole Miss at 6. So 7 is Oregon, Ole Miss at 6. I really don't think it's fair for me to jump Oregon to jump Ole Miss, because Ole Miss really didn't play a game on Saturday. So number 7 is Oregon, 6 is Ole Miss, Texas Tech is 5, Georgia is 4, A&M is 3, Indiana is 2, and Ohio State is number 1. That is our frenzy rankings for week 14, because there's really not a lot of adjustment from week 13 besides 25 through 12 and then 8 and 9. Those are the only really spots that needed adjustment. Other than that, the top 10 looks sort of the same this week, and top 11 looks sort of the same for the frenzy playoff rankings for week 14. That's the frenzy rankings for week 14. Let me know what you think on X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. I'm going to post it today, so let me know what you think on that one. Guys, we are out of time. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy, and the website's www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, a huge thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Guys, we're going to have a big episode on tap coming up this Thursday. A huge Thanksgiving edition of Pigskin Frenzy. We have George Reister back in the house as our Week 14/Showdown Saturday guest picker. The episode for week 12 was so good. We got some good reviews on it, and you guys have been wanting George back on the show. We're going to do it in a couple of weeks earlier. Guys, our guy George Reister back on the show to talk about ranking reactions for week 14, who's on upset alert for Showdown Saturday, and we're going to preview and predict the top matchups for Showdown Saturday, which include 2 Friday games on Black Friday and 2 Saturday games, which are Georgia versus Georgia Tech in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Clean old-fashioned hate. Texas A&M at Texas in Austin and the Lone Star Showdown. And then the Saturday games, the game, Ohio State at Michigan in Ann Arbor in the Big House, and the Iron Bowl on Saturday night. Do or die versus nothing to lose. Alabama at Auburn and Jordan-Hare Saturday night. Those are the Pigskin Frenzy games and the top Pigskin Frenzy matchups for Showdown Saturday this week with George Reister from the Unafraid Show as our guest picker. Guys, until Thursday, until Thanksgiving edition of Pigskin Frenzy, guys, we will see you then. I'm Joel Norris. We're signing off. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Please, and always, we're praying for you all, and we love you all. Stay the course.